Hello, everybody. Welcome to Talk About House. I'm Todd.
I'm Juana.
This is New Year's Eve,
Woohoo!
and we are super excited. We're a day away from tomorrow. Tomorrow will be 2024. And do you know what that means?
I'm another year younger.
You're not another year younger. The vaunted fourth year in a row that the housing market was going to crash didn't happen. We escaped a year without the housing market crash. But don't worry. The Crash Bros, they said they meant 24. It's going to happen this year for sure. It's definitely going to happen in 2024. What's funny is one of the Crash Bros, even though I don't watch the videos, the video popped up. The title was basically saying it's going to be a great year for real estate or something like we dodged a bullet kind of a thing. And it's like, oh my God, like seriously, you tell people to crash. Oh, it's going to be a great year. Okay. With that, we are actually going to talk about the shortage of this report that came out. Mm-hmm. It was Bank of America report. The U.S. housing market has a deficit of 4 million homes. Now, Juana, how does this work? Let's talk about the overall economics of this. How did 4 million homes just disappear?
Well, they didn't exactly disappear, did they?
Right.
They weren't ever built. So they didn't disappear. They weren't ever built.
What about all these? So let's talk about these. Okay. So why do we need to build more? Why does that we build like if there's so I think there's like the numbers there's 140 million single family homes in the U.S. Why do we need to build more homes? Why can't we just have 140 million?
Well, so we need to build more homes because we have more household formations.
Okay.
We have people growing up and needing to form their own households, leaving mom and dads.
Okay.
We have a net immigration, so it means that we have more people immigrating to the U.S. than leaving the U.S. So all of these mean more net household formations. The other reason why, so we need to house these people somewhere, right?
Okay.
They can't all be tenants. Some of them are ready, willing, and able buyers. And then, of course, the other reason is because the homes that we have, not all of them will continue to exist for one reason or another, whether because they've been destroyed or because they're obsolete. Whatever the reason is, we have about 200,000 homes a year that basically evaporate every year.
I was actually going to I went and did the research to do a video about this. Household fires take out like 60,000 something houses a year. Mm. And the top two causes, want to guess, what are the top two reasons a house burns down?
Cooking fire and electrical fire.
That's good. Did you know that or did
no,
you just...
I think that those are reasonable.
Okay, it is. Like the smoking thing, maybe in the 50s, 60s, and 70s when a lot of people smoked, but it's almost negligible. It's literally cooking. And those don't include wildfires. Mm-hmm. Okay, then there's another... there's like 300,000 houses a year damaged by housing fires. And then when you have all the other natural disasters, substantial number of homes damaged or destroyed. So, we have to replace those people. Now, before we do this next quote, because I've got a bunch of data, I've got a pretty cool chart that you guys are going to love. What about the boomers who are literally all in nursing homes? They're getting ready to die. And when the boomers all die, those houses, they're just going to sit vacant, right?
So the boomers are going to take more than 20 years to die off. That's the first part.
40.
I'm sorry, 40 years to die off.
20 years for half of the boomers to die.
Right. So it's going to be a while. The other thing is they're living longer. They're living healthier. They're aging in place. Even when they do choose to relocate because they want to be closer to family or for whatever reason, fine, but they're trading homes, right? They're going from one home to another, so that's not like they're going to bring homes on the market and not absorb another home. So that's not really helpful either.
The total number of people who die in the U.S. every year is exceeded by the number of people born in immigration. Mm-hmm. Okay, projected until at least 2080, the median. It'll take 20 years for half the boomers to die. And there's this misnomer that the baby boomers are this like half the population. They do hold quite a bit of wealth. However, the Gen X, us, and millennials, we're actually larger generations than boomers. There's more of us than boomers.
Right.
I think the name baby boom is what got people.
Okay, so the reason why there's more of us than them is because that generation had us, and our generation had the next generation. So, if you just assume that people had, 2, 3 kids, it's still more net population. And we know that people actually, for a while at least, were having more kids than that because, everything was more plentiful, right? So not only did people have more kids, but their kids lived to adulthood more. And so every generation, more kids lived to adulthood.
Okay. Here's the next quote. Bank of America housing analyst said the underbuilding of U.S. homes over the past decade has not only absorbed the 2 to 3 million home glut from pre-financial crisis overbuilding, but has also created a deficit of 4 million homes. The number one reason, the biggest reason we had a housing crash is this overbuilding of 2 to 3 million homes because the people got the crazy loans, right? The subprime loans. And so the subprime market went away. It crashed a bunch of banks. The real estate market got hammered. And we went into the opposite mode. We've underbuilt 4 million homes. We need to build 1 million homes a year. We're currently building like 650 to 800. Mm-hmm. There was a year, I think 21 or something was the year we got close. Mm-hmm. We basically got back to just break even, and then we've been building less again.
Right. But, here's the thing. If you're concerned that we're going to have more homes than we have buyers for them, then this is an easy metric for you to follow, right? So look at the metric of how far under our need we are with new home construction, and you can kind of follow that. When we get to a point where maybe we're only at a deficit of 1.5 million, then maybe, the Crash Bros might have something cooking by that point, that they could see maybe on the horizon being at this point where we have more homes than we have buyers. But right now, we're nowhere near that.
No, they probably are nothing. And I think I have a chart. Okay. Here we go. Okay, this chart. Homes built in the U.S. by decade. I've been hanging on to this for a while. This came from Robert Frick at the NFCU, Navy Federal Credit Union. So it's got to be accurate. It's the Navy. Homes built in the U.S. by decade. So this is in the millions. So we built in the 30s, we built about 5 million, Great Depression, right? And then we built 10 million during World War II, but there was no reason to build a lot of homes because everyone was out fighting wars, right? And then we got to the 20 million, and then we were building like 25 million. Now, this wasn't a year. This was per the decade, right? So this is a lot of homes. So this is over 1 million homes a year because we built 27 million homes in 9 years. And then look at that 2010 to 19, 5.8 million. So we basically built 500,000 homes a year. Mm-hmm. We built the same number of homes in the 2010 to 2019 that we built during the Great Depression. The population of the Great Depression in the U.S. was a third. Mm-hmm. It's about 130 million people. So we're almost a third of the population. We needed to build maybe, 20 million homes or 15 million or more than 5.8. We didn't build enough homes. Now, remember, like Juan has said, these homes are just not, we lose homes every year. Mm-hmm. So when we say we built 500,000 homes, well, 200,000 of those are just going to replace homes that were destroyed.
Right.
And remember, these numbers are just building permit numbers. So all they know is that somebody pulled a permit to build a new home. So if you had a house on the beach and the hurricane completely took it out and you got insurance money, so I'm going to build the house. I'm going to rebuild the house, but I'm going to build it better this time, right? That pulled building permit for a new build, and that gets counted. Mm-hmm. So they don't like skip over the ones that are being rebuilt. If you're just remodeling your house, that's different. But if it's gone and you're rebuilding a new home, that's what they count. Right?
Right.
Okay, I got to get back to slides. So there's going to be a slight delay while I do that, and okay.
So wait a minute. If you know where that music's from, and you can make fun of my singing, I don't care. But if you know where that music's from, put that in the comments just for fun.
Oh, that's one of those game shows. It was one of the game shows. They had like a certain amount of time.
Yes.
And when the music ended, they had like a buzzer went off if they didn't guess.
There you go. Yes.
Okay, I don't think it was Jeopardy, but we'll do that. Okay, here's the next quote. Simply put, Bank of America analysts say we went from an overbuilt nation to an underbuilt nation over the past decade. Mm-hmm. There was probably a huge opportunity, Wanda, don't you think, to buy homes when we were really overbuilt and home prices fell. I mean, you ready for this? You know that little housing sentiment thing, best time to buy, worst time to buy?
Yes.
Okay. The highest ever recorded best time to buy Do you remember when it was?
Are you talking about the sentiment or the actual best time to buy?
No. When people asked, is it a good time to buy a house? They've been doing it for about 30 years.
Okay.
The highest ever recorded, I think they started in the late 90s.
Okay.
It's tracked by the Fed. Highest ever. This is the best time ever to buy a house.
Okay. So people would have said 2005.
It was 2005, 2006. Absolute best time ever to buy a house. Guess when the absolute worst time ever to buy a house was?
People's sentiment or actual worst time?
No, sentiment. We're only talking about sentiment.
Sorry. Okay, so the sentiment would have been during the Great Housing Crisis.
Yeah, 2011.
Right.
The home prices literally had bottomed out. People are like, it's a terrible time. You should not buy a house. No one should buy a house. It's the worst time to buy. Literally, this just goes to show that people don't have a clue about when it's a good time to do anything. There is somebody, I think Warren Buffett said, if people say it's like a good time to do something, you should run away from it as fast as you can or something like that. I forget the quote, but that's true. We did go from overbuilt to underbuilt. It's too bad for people that didn't. I still look at all the houses we flipped and think, God, what if we'd kept all those houses? We wouldn't be making damn videos on YouTube, right? We'd rename Summerlin. We'd call it whatever we wanted because we'd own it, half of it. Most of the west side of town would be our houses.
There you go.
Okay, here's another quote. The most direct, I've got a chart, so don't tune out. I've got a chart you're going to love. The most direct solution for the housing shortage problem is to build more homes. Why didn't I think of that? Wrote Bank of America analysts in a paper published this fall with examine the markets that aren't addressing the deficit. Wanna? What if there were like these startup companies that actually could build I don't know where houses come from, but what if there was like businesses that could build a house, like could make a like you could go there and it was empty and then you'd come back like 6 months later and there would be a house. What if that existed?
Like home builders?
Like, I guess they do exist. They're home builders. Why don't home builders just crank out like 4 million houses next year and catch us all up? They would actually have to be built 5 million next year.
Okay, because that's not profitable.
It's not. They can't do it.
So they physically can't do it because they have constraints of land, permitting, materials, labor, all kinds of things. But they also would not do it because it's not profitable. Remember, their goal is to build as the right number of homes. That's the right mix between the number of homes and their profit margin. So that means that they still want to maintain some semblance of that scarcity in order for them to continually raise prices above and beyond what their costs are for land, labor, materials, and so on.
Yeah, there's not enough land. They don't have the money, first of all, and they don't have the labor.
Well, they don't
have the materials. They have money, but they still have to borrow money to build. They don't just like have a ton of cash. I mean, remember, they're building projects all over the country. Yeah, and it's not in their interest to just keep cash. A lot of those pay dividends. They paid cash out to shareholders. Remember, some of these companies, even though they're publicly traded, they were started by wealthy families. And I'm sure KB is named after somebody. I'm sure D.R. Horton's named after somebody. Even if they named like we used to know Astoria Homes, but it was just a dude. It was like one guy who owned it. They were one of the bigger builders in town, right? But he just so the money goes places. They don't just sit. It doesn't sit in a bank and not get spent, right? They don't. Okay, this is a chart. We're going to put the chart up now. What this shows, this is the number of building permits issued between January of 2023 and May of 2023 is a share of the local population. Okay. Now, first thing you're going to notice is this is a bit skewed. And we're going to point out all the problems with this. All that time I spent getting my MBA, I learned how to analyze these charts and pick out all the mistakes they made. Okay. So everything in blue just means it's above the median, meaning they pulled more housing permits than the current population is a percentage, right? Which is about a little over 0.2%. So that means that for every 1,000 houses, they pulled 2 more permits, okay, in the market. So the yellow ones just mean it's below that, okay? Now, what you notice about if you go all the way to the right, Detroit, Chicago, San Francisco, Philadelphia, San Diego, Los Angeles, New York, Boston, Baltimore, St. Louis, D.C., Miami, we'll even say Columbus and Seattle, Are those on average large cities or small cities?
They're pretty big, good-sized cities.
Are most of these cities limited in any way by, say, an ocean or other natural features that would keep them from just being able to continuously build outward?
Some of them are.
Like, yeah, pretty much. Like Detroit, you've got a lake. Chicago, you've got a lake. San Francisco, you've got an ocean and hills. Philadelphia, like all these, they just can't build. Also, these are more mature things. And some of these towns, people actually have net people leaving. So really, you don't have to build that many homes. You have to build some homes to replace some homes, right? And then you have to build to people that want to buy like a new home, like more expensive home, maybe, right?
Sure, but
Okay.
you also have places like San Francisco or Miami and places like that where people want to buy second homes.
Okay, now the other cities, when you go over here into the blue, and there's a main reason I'm showing this chart, because it's to Vegas people, you're going to like this because it's pretty cool. Okay, with Vegas, which is the least, we're barely over the median, right? Portland, Atlanta, San Antonio, Tampa, Dallas, Phoenix, Orlando, Houston, Austin, Jacksonville, Charlotte, Nashville. All places, first of all, they're all pretty much all Sunbelt except for Portland, right? And Portland, the looters probably burned down a lot of houses. They have to rebuild those.
I don't know how much house. I mean, I'm sure that there were some houses that were burnt down, but I don't know that it's.
No, I'm just kidding.
That's substantial.
I'm kidding. But what's interesting here is the reason why they have to build is because they have influx of population.
Right.
Why does Dallas and why do Texas, Arizona, look, if you just take Texas, Georgia, Arizona, Nevada, the Carolinas, North and South, and Tennessee, that basically gets every single one of these except for Portland.
Right. So they're Sunbelt cities. These are cities and areas that are they have seen population growth and they have expected population growth. And it's not all retirees moving to these areas. And I want to point that out because that used to be the Sunbelt. Oh, that's where retirees go. Well, not so fast, because these areas are also attracting younger people because they've turned their economies around and they have all kinds of new industry that is there. And it's a variety of industries, and they're attracting people from all ages. So that means that they actually have sustainable growth, not just retirees.
What's most interesting about this is you see Las Vegas, we're basically around the median, slightly over. We have the highest population growth as a percentage as any of these cities do.
Right.
We should be all the way over the left where Nashville is. Now, Nashville's growing very quickly, too. They're probably on par with us. Mm-hmm. We should be building like crazy. Remember, Nashville has we have restrictions that Nashville doesn't have. Nashville's in the middle of Tennessee. Mm-hmm. You could literally drive for 1,000 miles and not hit an ocean, okay? So Nashville can get 1,000 miles across, get pretty big. It can actually spill outside of Tennessee into other states, okay? Yes, there's some hills, but they're just hills, right? I know you guys that live there on the East Coast, you call them the Blue Ridge Mountains and the Smoky Mountains and stuff. Come out to the West Coast. We got mountains out here, okay? But the stuff around the middle Tennessee, those are hills, okay? So you go build around them. And you've got a lot of little bedroom communities that are there. There's a lot of room. If you drive around, there's just trees and Waffle House. You got trees and Waffle House.
Okay, so before you start putting comments in the comments, which you're welcome to do, he actually has been to that part of the world and of the country, and he does know how beautiful it is, and he does know that the mountains are mountains. Okay, he does know that, and they're beautiful, and we've actually traveled that way. In his defense, when he's comparing those mountains to the Sierras or the Rocky Mountains, that's what he's talking about, which are clearly bigger mountains. But the mountains you have, the Blue Ridge Mountains and the Smoky Mountains, they're beautiful, and the trees are lovely, and the scenery is fantastic. So we do appreciate it. Please don't be offended by what he just said. I happen to think that's a beautiful part of the country. Okay,
I just went through. Now, I've been to all these cities. What's interesting is, except for Jacksonville, which I flew an A6 Intruder into. I've flown a military jet into Jacksonville. I have flown a Boeing 727 in my previous career as a pilot for a major airline. I've flown 727 into every one of these cities. I'm pretty sure I've laid over in every one of these cities, so I know. Now, I've also flown low levels through the mountains in like Virginia and stuff. They're not very big mountains. They're not like the mountain, like the Cascade Mountain Range, the Olympic Peninsula, the Rockies, and stuff like that. But now there are some mountains up there. I've flown some low levels around them. There's even mountains in Pennsylvania. I've flown low levels in Pennsylvania through this like kind of mountain range and stuff. So the bottom line is that Nashville, all these places are growing, those states that I mentioned, but Vegas we're underbuilding.
We are underbuilding. So the reason we are underbuilding is because we are landlocked. And you're thinking, what? I've flown into Vegas. There is nothing but desert all the way around that city.
Yep.
Well, you're right. The issue with that is that the federal government owns that land. Okay, that is all Bureau of Land Management land, and they do release land to the builders periodically. There does not seem to be a specific schedule. It just seems to be, full moon, even day, odd month, and the planets have to align for that to happen. So they don't even release it every year. So this is a big deal for us. So we do not have the land on which to build because it is owned by the federal government.
And here's another issue. The Las Vegas Valley or the Southern Nevada Water Conservation District, which is, they control the water, have basically put pressure saying, we need to back off on building. Okay. Now there's one of our U.S. senators, I think one of the senators has a plan to add like 1 million people in 10 years. Okay. But in doing that, we have to add or maybe it's 1.6 million. But in order to do that, we would have to build a ton of houses. She wants BLM to just open the floodgates of land. The Water Conservation District, Southern Nevada District, is saying, no, don't do that. So fortunately, the BLM is listening to them and saying, hey, the Colorado River Basin has got to give, we only get 2% of the water. People think all that water comes down to Colorado. Nevada gets 2% as a whole state. Arizona, California, Texas, New Mexico gets more than we get. Okay? I don't even think Colorado River goes into New Mexico, but they pull water out of it, to the river.
So if you're wondering about that, we actually have a couple of videos about the water situation. So feel free to go find them. We've got some really great information about where our water comes from, how much water we use, how much water we put back. We actually have a lot of water credits. If you're wondering what water credits are, check out the video. It's pretty cool. Yeah, we've been storing water and doing stuff. We talk about all in the video. But the bottom line is Las Vegas is still going to grow. We have the baseball team coming. We have a bunch of other stuff. But as you can see from this chart, we are not growing at the rate we need to grow, which means our housing supply will be restricted. And, this is why I think we learned our lesson with the overbuilding. Remember, 2005, 6, 7, we got hit the hardest because we overbuilt the most. Now, it was great for realtors because we were, realtor, you could sell 50 houses a month easy. You just walk outside and someone go, I need to buy 5 houses because I can buy 5. And you'd be like, okay, let's go to the new home place and go buy 5 houses. Right. And then 6 months later, you'd sell the houses and then go buy 5 more. Right. So there was a lot of that happening. Today, it's a little more reasonable. Like people are actually has anybody that we've sold a house to have any of them sold? No.
The only people that have sold, I think, one did. One person. The one that Invitation Homes bought for $410.
Oh, right.
Yeah. He bought that home about 10 years ago.
Yeah, but he was moving back east.
He was moving back east. Okay. Bottom line is, everyone we know is staying put. We have had all the people who have come to us to sell are leaving. They're and they don't want to deal with rentals. So because of that anecdotal information and this data that we have now, I predict that we're going to see steady upward pressure on home prices. It was goofy a year ago with interest rates, and a lot of people panic sold, and that caused this kind of a dip in price. It caused a run up in prices and a dip in prices, but that's why we're short. Bottom line, underbuilding. Yep. Happy New Year. Happy New Year. Are you doing anything tonight? Yeah. So let us know what you're doing tonight for New Year's Eve. Give Todd a big thumbs up for his cool charts. And, he's paying attention to the wardrobe. I know he's back in the blue, but, he is trying to vary his wardrobe a bit.
We appreciate you spending New Year's Eve with us very much. Please remember to like the video, subscribe, hit the notification bell, share the video, and we'll see you next year.
Next year.
Happy New Year.
Bye.